correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm going to assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason that one experiences trauma is because of other people and a lack of safety around people. They then create these parts of themselves to then cope with them. It could be, social anxiety. It could be anger. It could be outrage. It could be antisocial behaviors. Or in a more positive scenario, it could be, pro-social behaviors like, feeling comfortable in one's body and being confident. Like they've had so many positive experiences with that. They trust people. And it sounds like the end goal of, and I know it's different for everyone, but again, correct me if I'm wrong here, the end goal of healing trauma is to end in a place of natural kindness, natural compassion for each other. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. So parts get created usually pre-10. You still get parts being created older than that, but you've got to think about our personalities are forming under the age of 10. And if we have a loving, caring environment that we're in where we feel safe, then all our parts get integrated with us. And by integration, I mean they feel like us. They're still separate parts, but we all work together as a team. We all communicate. We all have compassion and care for each other. And when you experience really severe trauma as a child, especially under 10, and it's chronic and repeated, then because of that chronic and repeated trauma, your parts actually stay separated. They don't become integrated and form, and they actually feel dissociated or disconnected to you. And they do that, and they stay separated to protect you, right? And that is really the form when your parts early on as a child, your personality doesn't integrate, and you have these parts that are separate. Those parts stay dissociated or disconnected as a solution to deal with the trauma you've experienced, which is then, goes on to be diagnosed later on as dissociative identity disorder, or what used to be called multiple personality disorder, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not a huge fan of calling it dissociative identity disorder. I actually think it's dissociative identity solution. It is the natural solution to extreme trauma. And it is something you don't get a choice of. If you are experiencing trauma, and trauma is something very subjective, and subjectively it's a distressing event that is beyond your capacity to cope and in which you feel helpless. So if an event is beyond your capacity to cope and it is helpless, and it is so distressing that you can't handle it, a part will be created to help you manage that. And I've got a slide later on that we can talk about where I sort of explain that and why that works and how it works in terms of why those parts are created, and they're there to help. So it is a neurological process where a part of you splits off to help you carry the burden and deal with some of that trauma and distress. And that could involve multiple parts, not just one. And those parts...
sorry, go for it.
Those parts then get carried through with you for your life, right? And so the odd thing is that, especially dissociative identity disorder, that is really a childhood disorder. It's a disorder that starts in childhood, but we really don't diagnose it until adulthood because we're not that great at spotting it or seeing it. And when parts get created, for example, if dad's beating you up and you're 6 years old and it's beyond belief and horrific, then the part that gets created to help you deal with that 6-year-old part of you actually stays 6. And you might be 30 or 40, but that part is still 6. It gets trapped in time. And so when you respond as a 30-year-old to someone who is getting angry at you or aggressive, your response might be way beyond what is justified or needed for that event. It's because 6-year-old has kicked in. Does that sort of make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah. And it's equally sad as it is inspiring hope, I think, because I think, and I want to distinguish something there. I think that these disorders in that word, right? I think that everyone has them to a degree, right? There's no childhood that was perfect in the sense of, like from A to Z, everything was perfect, because as children, we are the center of the universe. We think we are, at least. And we take everything super duper seriously. Like this one event here that had no meaning whatsoever as far as it goes from a cognitive point of view means everything to us because we respond with emotion first and with a center point of view. So I think it's important to note that and you can correct me if I'm wrong here as well, that the behaviors that we have and the ways of being in the world that we have that might be quote unquote disempowering or incorrect actually quite normal for most humans.
Yeah, they're quite normal. They're for a lot of people functional. They help them cope and manage and adapt. And we've all experienced trauma to some degree. We've all experienced some distressing events, some more than others. And if those distressing events are not are smaller and minimal, we have the functional capacity and resiliency to overcome those. It's when they're very distressing, and it's where they're cumulative over the time and repeated that they have a more significant impact. And sometimes it can just be one event that really takes us off kilter. And that's when you need some help helping resolve that trauma and that distress.
Thanks for watching this clip of the Getting Mental podcast. If you like this clip, check out the full episode here or more clips here.